9 Sinister New Town Haunts. The spine-chilling secrets revealed behind our cursed neighborhood. Sarah had hoped for a fresh start, a chance to escape the chaos of city life with her 2 kids. But the tranquility of this idyllic suburban neighborhood quickly unraveled into a web of terror. She was settled into her quaint, new home when she sensed something was off. The librarian across the street seemed to watch her from behind the curtain, her eyes glimmering like dark marbles, tracking Sarah's every move. The school principal, with a plastered smile that never reached his eyes, offered sweets to her children, the air around him thick with something unsettling. And the handyman, always lurking just outside her window late at night, made her skin crawl. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the neighborhood transformed. Sarah found herself jumping at shadows, and whispers dissipated when she approached. The elderly woman next door warned her with a trembling voice, "They never forget. What did that mean?" The manicured lawns and pastel fences started to feel confining, harboring secrets darker than anyone dared to admit. The rhythmic laughter of children echoed eerily in the distance, their voices twisted with glee, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were always just too eager for playdates. Unease gnawed at her like a hungry animal, a constant buzzing in her mind threatening to consume her sanity. The town had a reputation, an unsettling folklore tied to the disappearance of a child, long buried beneath layers of pretense. As familiar faces morphed into grotesque masks, Sarah's heart raced. Her instincts screamed that danger was closer than she had ever imagined. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Chilling encounters piled on relentless dread. She stood frozen in the grocery aisle, watching neighbors exchange glances that felt more like conspiracies than casual chats. Then came the terrifying day when her children vanished. A serene afternoon turned into a waking nightmare as panic enveloped her. She rushed to the authorities, only to be met with dismissive waves. They labeled her paranoia a symptom of city life, enlarging the walls of her isolation. Desperation clawed at her chest. She needed answers, and the librarian was her only hope. Sarah confronted her one fateful evening, heart thundering in her ears. The librarian's eyes sharpened, slicing through the air heavy with secrets. As truths began to twist around Sarah's grasp of reality, the town's dark legacy loomed ominously, choking her with implications too horrifying to face. But just as the last thread of clarity began to unravel, it happened. Laughter twisted and joyful rang out through the night, filling her with trepidation. The neighborhood children, the ones who'd vanished, now stood in the moonlight, their faces eerily blank, smiles stretched into something unrecognizable. What had they become? Shadows coiled around her again, and the ground trembled as if the cursed neighborhood itself conspired against her. Could she escape this nightmare, or would she join the multitude lost to its sinister grip? A cold wave of dread washed over Sarah as she stood paralyzed by the sight before her. The children, once full of life and laughter, now seemed like mere phantoms, a twisted reflection of their former selves. Their playdate invitations echoed in her mind like a cruel taunt, their previously innocent faces now missing any trace of joy, just blank stares and wide, unsettling smiles carved into their skin. She turned to flee, but her feet felt like they were glued to the ground. Behind her, the laughter grew louder, a cacophony of sound that rang through the night, wrapping around her like a sinister embrace. The air felt thick, each breath a struggle. "What is happening?" she whispered, more to herself than anyone else, as dread coiled tighter around her throat. Her neighbors emerged from their houses as if suddenly drawn to the commotion. They wore those same strange smiles, eyes glimmering with an otherworldly delight as they watched the children. Some held blankets, others cups of steaming liquid, as if attending a bizarre celebration. The librarian was among them, her gaze fixed on Sarah, an expectant grin stretching across her face. "Join us, Sarah, join us," came the chant, low and melodic, as if being sung from the earth itself. It vibrated beneath her feet, urging her to sink into the ground and join the throng of otherworldly souls. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, Sarah broke free, rushing back toward her house. She could hear the feet of the children pattering behind her. Their laughter turned into a spine-tingling cackle that followed her like a storm of shadows. She slammed the door shut and locked it, her heart hammering against her chest like a wild animal desperate to escape. Breathing heavily, she turned to the dim light of her kitchen. The ticking clock on the wall had never seemed louder, each tick echoing her rising panic. "Mommy?" A familiar voice called from the darkness of the hallway. Sarah's heart froze. It was both a relief and a source of sheer terror. Her children, had they really returned? "Is that you? Where have you been?" she shouted, dread creeping into her words. Instinct nudged her closer to the impending doom she felt in her bones. The hallway was swallowed in darkness as her children's silhouettes emerged slowly, illuminated by a soft glow from the streetlight outside. But their features were hidden in shadow. They stumbled into the kitchen, eyes wide and unblinking, smiles stretched too wide, so wrong, so unnatural. "Mommy, we had so much fun!" Their voices rang out, unnaturally harmonized, chilling her to the core. Before she could gather her thoughts, the door rattled violently, as if something monstrous outside was eager to break through. A cacophony of frantic knocks and thumps echoed through the house. The glowing figures of the neighborhood children pressed against her windows now, appearing like angry spirits demanding entry. "Join us! Don't leave us again!" they screamed in unison, a terrifying chorus that filled her ears. Panic seized her. Sarah turned to her children, desperate. "What did you do? Where were you?" Their expression morphed seamlessly from eerie smiles to something darker. "We played, and we can play forever." The lights flickered, plunging her into a world of chaos and shadow. A chill crept up her spine, realization washing over her she might not be able to save her children from the grip of this twisted neighborhood. As the door burst open, Sarah faced the swirling mass of laughter and shadows, ready to consume them all. In one last moment of clarity, she wondered if she could fight against these cursed toys of her worst fears, or if she, too, would become just another ghost within this cursed town. To escape, or to embrace the twisted reality weighed heavily around her like an unshakable fog. Just as darkness began to swallow the light, a figure emerged in the shadows, a silhouette, familiar yet unrecognizable, holding a lantern that flickered with ominous light. "Help us!" Sarah cried, grabbing the figure as hope mingled with despair. The figure loomed closer, revealing a face she initially thought she'd never see again, one that had vanished from this world long ago. What had come back to find her? And could it save them, or were they all doomed to the same fate? The figure stepped into the dim light of the kitchen, the lantern casting long shadows that flickered ominously across the walls. Sarah's heart raced, recognizing the familiar face framed by hair that had been untouched by time. It was her sister, Emily, who had vanished years ago, swallowed whole by the very darkness that now threatened Sarah and her children. "Emily? Is it really you?" Sarah's voice trembled, a mixture of disbelief and yearning spilling out. But the face that stared back was not entirely hers. It was subtly warped, its features lingering between recognition and something malicious. "Yes, Sarah, I've come back," Emily replied, her voice feather-soft yet deepened, resonating with an unnatural echo. "I've missed you. We've all missed you." Who is we?" Panic washed over Sarah, the laughter outside rising to a crescendo. Her head spun as she felt the lantern's glow leaking through the cracks of her heart, intermingling with the creeping fear that shadowed her home. "Mommy, let the games begin!" Her children chimed from behind her, their eyes capturing the flicker of Emily's lantern, reflecting it eerily like twin orbs of doom. The air thickened, boiling over with an overwhelming urge to succumb to this nightmarish playdate. "You don't have to fear them, Sarah," Emily whispered, inching closer, the lantern's light shaping her wicked smile. "They're just here to join us forever." The laughter morphed into shrieks of delight, powerful and demanding. Her walls vibrated with the intensity of the children's voices as they continued to press against the windows, desperate to break through. Shadows clawed at the glass, reaching out with skeletal fingers that seemed to stretch longer with every passing second. "No! Get away from my kids!" Sarah shouted, eyes darting between her sister and the ghastly figures outside. Her heart pounded in her ears, a frantic drumbeat that drowned out the madness surrounding her. Emily tilted her head, a false innocence lighting her once warm gaze. "They want to be friends, Sarah. Does it hurt to play with old friends?" She could feel the aura of despair swirling around her, nearly suffocating. The memories rushed back, days that were too precious to lose, spinning whispers of what had happened to Emily. A car accident, a stormy night, her sister had been gone, leaving Sarah with a hollow ache. The walls around her felt like they were closing in, and the smell of damp earth filled the air as if the very ground was pulling them to its dark depths. "What did you do to them?" she breathed, terror clawing at her throat. "I brought them back for you. To play. They love the game we started." Emily laughed, a sound that rang discordantly through the house, and the children echoed it back outside. Their eyes blinked in perfect synchrony, a hive mind that chilled Sarah to the core. "Join us!" The chant grew, a deafening, insatiable call that beckoned from the beyond, enticing and frightening all at once. The front door strained under the relentless attacks of the children who had once been mere playmates. The world outside twisted before her, a tableau both inviting and monstrous. Each second hung heavy, as if counting down to an inescapable conclusion. "Sarah, it's time to decide," Emily lured, her voice thick with temptation. "Do you want to be with us or do you want to keep fighting? You might just lose more than you can afford." The lantern flickered, casting long shadows across the space, darkening her sister's features until only her malevolence remained. In that moment, Sarah recognized the choice laid before her: embrace the chaos or confront the nightmare. But before she could scream her answer, the lights blinked out completely. The house plunged into darkness. A frantic whisper wrapped around her, barely audible but dripping with malice. "Mommy, we can't wait forever. What would she choose?" With all the dread converging, Sarah's heart sank. The laughter encroached again, demanding entry, begging to consume her whole. Would this be the last night she ever fought back? Or was there still hope in this twisted game she now found herself in? Her breath hitched as an idea struck. If she couldn't save her children, perhaps she could outsmart the game altogether. But what other secrets hid in the shadows, the ones she hadn't even begun to uncover? As the darkness deepened, Sarah stood on the precipice of her decision, and the chilling echoes of the past loomed ever closer. The darkness clung to Sarah like a thick fog, numbing her senses and twisting her thoughts. She stood frozen, the frantic laughter echoing outside now morphing into guttural growls. What had once been joyous calls of play had turned into something sinister. Shadows loomed around the room, creeping closer, whispering secrets she didn't want to know. "Mommy!" The voice of her eldest son, Tommy, sliced through the gloom, piercing her heart like a knife. "We're waiting! Come out and play!" The walls trembled with every word his voice uttered. An icy dread settled in Sarah's stomach, battling against the flicker of hope in her idea to outwit them. Was there a way to save her children? Or was she falling into a trap crafted by the very sister she thought she had lost? "Emily, you need to leave! This isn't you!" she shouted, trying to hold on to the woman she once knew. "This isn't what family means." Her voice cracked under the pressure, desperation spilling out. A distorted laugh echoed back, making her skin crawl. "Family is forever, Sarah. I gave them a gift, one you could never understand." Just as she felt the grip of despair tightening, she recalled the tales buried deep in her memory, tales of loss, of regret, and of revenge. "What if I let you have me instead?" she blurted, throwing the words into the abyss of darkness around her, praying that it would reach her sister. The laughter stopped. A silence descended like a blanket, wrapping her tightly. The shadows paused, and in that quiet, she felt a flicker of movement, a shift. "Join us," Emily breathed, her voice wrapping around Sarah like sweet poison. But you must embrace what we are now. You must be with us, in the dark. The ground beneath her feet felt alive, pulsing with anticipation. Sarah clenched her fists, fighting against the fear curling around her heart. If I come to you, let them go. Let my children be free. The shadows tugged at her, their whispers growing louder, turning into an unholy choir of spirits aching to be released. You must choose, sister. All for one or none. What is it going to be? Mommy! The chorus of her children clamored in the darkness, a haunting melody of hope and despair mixed into one, pushing Sarah to her limits. Tommy's voice was stronger, more insistent. We want you back. Join us. Sweat dripped down Sarah's back as the weight of her decision clawed at her resolve. Time poured like sand through her fingers. Thoughts raced, all her fears jumbled together with visions of her sister and lost years. She could not abandon her children. No! I want tea! She cried, tears streaming down her face, each drop steeped in pain and love. I will fight! Suddenly, lights flickered back to life, casting everything in an eerie glow. Emily's face twisted into a mask of disbelief, and for a moment, the malicious shadows recoiled. But it was fleeting. A sharp wind howled through the now open windows, a vicious breath from beyond. The children outside screamed in rage, their small bodies blurred in shadow, angry spirits not of this world. Very well, sister. If it's a fight you want, Emily smirked, a wicked glint in her eyes. Let us see how long you can hold on to this hope of yours. Without warning, images of the past flooded Sarah's mind, scenes of laughter, moments stolen by grief, but also a realization of an ancient bond ridden with guilt. Their broken family, now a binding blood curse. What have you done, Emily? She gasped, clenching her fists and stepping back, bracing for the unthinkable explosion of the world around her. Then she saw a flicker of light from the corner of her eye, the lantern sputtering as if trying to warn her. And just like that, the air turned electric. A sudden surge ripped through the room as the laughter transformed into shrieks of agony, the cold touch of something ancient and brutal ready to awaken. Everything comes at a cost, Sarah, Emily whispered, her shadow stretching grotesquely across the floor. A family bound by blood, a bond that can't be severed. As the shadows lunged toward her, Sarah knew she had one last chance. But was it too late? The lantern flickered once more, illuminating a menacing figure behind Emily that made Sarah's heart falter. Mommy? Tommy's voice spilled over the cacophony, trembling and fragile. Help us! The weight of the decision loomed heavier than ever. Would she choose darkness, or attempt to shatter the chain holding them all captive? With darkness closing in, Sarah took a deep breath, her answer ready to escape, but what she didn't know was that the universe had other plans. Would this night seal her fate or set off a new chapter of terror? The shadows lunged, tendrils of darkness wrapping around Sarah's legs like icy chains, pulling her down. Her heart raced, urgency clawing at her throat. No! She screamed, battling against the pull, yet the weight was suffocating. Every glance at Emily sent a shiver through her core. The distorted smile on her sister's face twisted reality. Do you see now? Emily hissed, the shadows flickering in rhythm with her words. You can't escape us. We are the curse, we are inevitable. Tommy's voice echoed again, sharp and desperate. Mommy, don't let them take you. His small pale face peered from the swirling darkness outside, eyes wide with terror. It struck Sarah like a thunderbolt. Her children needed her. Were they truly lost, or was there a way to save them? The energy in the room shifted, the lantern dimming as if sensing her conflict. Fear crawled up Sarah's spine, tightening its grip. Please, you have to let them go. I'll do anything. She stared at Emily, hoping to find a sliver of the sister she once knew. But Emily only laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The shadows pulled tighter, whispering secrets of despair, igniting the memories of curses passed down in their family. She felt them seep into her like poison, generations of pain wrapped around her heart. A frenzied thought darted through her mind, a memory from her childhood, stories about breaking the curses woven by betrayal and love. If all could bind her sister as power, could it also unravel it? Emily, think of Mom. Think of everything we've lost. Sarah shouted through the darkness, latching on to hope like a lifeline. For a moment, Emily's expression faltered, and the shadows hesitated, shimmering as if uncertain. It was then that Sarah saw it, the flicker of humanity still buried within her twisted sister. The bond is broken when forgiveness is given. You don't have to stay like this. Sarah continued to plead, stepping forward against the tide of ghastly whispers. You can choose to break free. Silence! Emily shrieked, and the shadows lashed out, forcing Sarah back. Pain shot through her, yet Sarah stood her ground. Would she stand alone against her sister, or could she ignite that flicker of light? Mommy! The cries of her children surged with fervor, a chorus of desperation that resonated deep within. They needed her strength. Help us, Mommy! They were fighting against the dark, pulling her with their love. They had faith in her. Perhaps this was the bridge she needed. Emily! She cried, trembling with raw energy. You are not the monster they made you. We can break this together. Emily's laughter morphed into a snarl. Too late for that. They are mine, and soon you will be too. The shadows roared, and the ground trembled beneath her, a prelude to devastation. Each heartbeat felt louder than a drum, echoing an ancient rhythm of despair. Sarah glanced around. There had to be something, a hidden truth, a way to shatter this nightmare. Just then, the lantern ignited, casting a brilliant light that pierced through the blackness. For a fleeting moment, the shadows recoiled, revealing glimpses of figures, faces of those Emily had once loved but lost. The energy shifted, creating a conduit of hope through the blinding radiance. Sarah reached deep into her heart, understanding what her sister needed to hear. All we've lost, Emily! She shouted, her voice strong against the chaos. We can face it together. This doesn't have to end in suffering. And for a brief instant, she saw the flicker in Emily's eyes ignite with confusion, wondering if it was possible. But then, a cold wave rushed in again, shoving her sister toward malevolence. Enough! You want to play games, sister? We'll see who survives the night. The shadows lunged again, and Sarah felt the air thicken, her pulse racing with dread. A drastic decision loomed before her, the weight of their fate hanging in the balance. Could she find the strength to finally break the family curse, or was this truly the end? As reality twisted, the shadows closing in like an avalanche, Sarah felt a final surge within her. She would fight. With everything she had left. But would it be enough? With an anguished cry, she focused on the light, grounding herself in the thought of her children, the fragile hope weaving into the fabric of terror closing in around her. What would happen if she let the darkness in, just a little? Would she gain power too, or would it consume her entirely? The shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of darkness, swirling with a mind of their own. Sarah closed her eyes, squeezing them tight as if shutting out the world would protect her from the chaos around. The voices roared, whispering promises of despair and threats to her very essence. The icy grip on her legs tightened, dragging her deeper into the suffocating malevolence, but she fought through the panic. Fight it, Sarah! You are stronger than this! She repeated in her mind, clutching the last remnants of hope. The blinding light from the lantern flickered, casting long shadows on the cracked walls of the basement, showcasing twisted figures that danced in cruel mockery. Were they ancestors, ghosts of those who had fallen prey to the darkness that now threatened to engulf her? Mommy! Tommy's voice cut through the cacophony, clearer, sharper, slicing into her heart. The plea wasn't just a call, it was a lifeline. It anchored her amidst the unraveling nightmare. Tommy and Emily, the two halves of her world, were at stake. I'm coming! She screamed, her voice raw. She could feel Emily's wrath swirling like a storm. You think you can save them? They are already mine. Emily's face shifted grotesquely, eyes glinting with malevolence. In that moment, Sarah felt an ancient horror rise within her, a visceral chill that gripped her throat. Perhaps I could fight fire with fire, she whispered to herself. There was a dark power in surrendering, in embracing the very thing that frightened her. Maybe, Just maybe, if she let it flow through her, she could turn it against Emily. It was risky, like flirting with danger, edging too close to the abyss. Sarah breathed deeply, feeling warmth gather in her center. I will not give in. I will not lose my children, she yelled, pushing against the inexorable pull. She envisioned the light building within her, a beacon against the shadows. Yes, grows stronger. You can feel it, can't you? The shadows whispered, taunting her determination. Enough. Sarah's voice was a fierce whisper, full of conviction. You want me to succumb? Why should I fear the dark when I can become the darkness? With that declaration, she summoned the weight of pain, the loss, the betrayal, all the bitter ancestries that haunted her family. The shadows paused, the laughter of Emily faltering. What are you doing? Learning, Sarah hissed through gritted teeth. She opened her heart and mind, allowing the darkness to creep in, to intermingle with her spirit. It tasted sharp, a cold fire that licked at her insides. If this was the curse, she would wield it, not with malice, but as a shield against Emily's twisted ambitions. As the shadows embraced her, they shifted, swirling around her like a cloak made of midnight. Sarah moved swiftly, wielding the power harnessed from within, and sent out a pulse of energy that rippled through the air, sending the shadows recoiling. Emily's eyes widened, a mixture of horror and realization. What are you? She whispered in disbelief. I'm your sister, Sarah roared, channeling the energy swirling inside her. I can do what you cannot. I will save us. The lantern flickered wildly, illuminating the room with flashes of light that ignited attention. The spirits trapped in the darkness began to shimmer. Faces emerged, relatives long gone, twisting in agony and with regret, pleading for release. A deep tremor arose in the basement, reverberating through Sarah's bones. The shadows twisted violently, a backlash at the force she now commanded. But just when it seemed like she would prevail, a dark wind erupted, ripping through the room like a hurricane. No! Emily shrieked, clawing at the shadows that clung to her. You can't take them. They are mine! The power within Sarah surged. Listen to their cries, Emily. You are not alone. We can end this. Together. The shadows thrashed, a cacophony of anger and betrayal, yet Sarah pushed forward, well aware that one misstep could lead her to destruction. Would Emily surrender, or would the darkness bind them both? In that moment of uncertainty, the ground quaked. The remnants of their family curse crackled in the air. It was then Sarah realized the curse had taken root long before them, a dark seed planted by lost souls. Could they uproot it together, or would it consume them both? With an unyielding scream, she lunged toward Emily, the light of hope still flickering between them. But where would that light lead them? Would it become a beacon or a mere flicker, swallowed by the dark? The force of Sarah's leap sent both her and Emily sprawling to the cold floor, the air thickening with an oppressive weight. As they crashed, the shadows writhed under the strain of their confrontation, hissing in contempt. Tommy's voice faded into a distant wail, swallowed by the chaos. Do you see? Emily gasped, her voice rising to a frantic pitch. You cannot fight this. The darkness binds us. Each word dripped with venom, but beneath it was a tremor of fear. No, Emily, Sarah shouted, it's not binding us. It's revealing the truth. She struggled against the shadows wrapping around her ankles. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. She couldn't back down now, not when their lives hung in the balance. The room began to tremble again, the earth groaning beneath them as the walls seemed to lean in, watching, waiting. Faces warped in the shadows flickered like dying embers, whispering secrets that no one had dared to speak. Fear and hatred crashed against Sarah like waves, almost knocking the resolve from her mind, but she pressed on. The lantern flickered violently, casting chaotic shadows on the walls. Figures of her ancestors appeared and faded, specters with mouths twisted in silent screams. She felt their pain, deep-set anguish mingling with her own, as if a dark communion had forged a bond between them all. Help us! One face cried, a monstrous echo of a long-forgotten relative, their eyes pleading. Destroy the curse before it kills you both. Destroy what? Emily screamed, flinging her hands out in a desperate gesture as if to ward off the dark tide. You're too deep in this. We are the curse. No! Sarah screamed back, finding clarity despite the overwhelming terror. We can change it. Break free. Please find your light. You're not just a vessel for their pain, you're their salvation too. Emily faltered, terror bleeding through her fierce facade. For a brief moment, the fight left her eyes. Then, as quickly as it came, rage flickered back. You think you can save us, Sarah? You think unearthing the past will make it easier? Her voice rose to a shrill crescendo. You're wrong. It's too late. As though summoned by her words, shadows rushed to enfold Emily. Sarah felt them crawling up her arms, the chill creeping once more into her very being. But she resisted. She wouldn't let the darkness suffocate her. Look! Sarah shouted, drawing Emily's gaze to the lantern. A strange glow had begun to emerge, faint but present. That light, it's a chance, Em. Our legacy doesn't have to be a curse. The spirits don't want revenge, they want release. Emily hesitated. The shadows around her flickered, unsure, as if sensing a shift in the atmosphere. The lantern pulsed, responding to Sarah's conviction. I can't. Emily's voice broke, uncertainty creeping into her tone. You can. Look at all the lives lost. The torment they suffered. Together, we can give them peace. We can end this. The sincerity in Sarah's voice reached out, weaving tendrils of hope through Emily's despair. At that moment, something shifted. The shadows twisted. A shrill, anguished cry filled the basement, raw and desperate. It clawed at Sarah's insides, a shredding sound that filled every corner of her mind. The spirits were fighting, clawing to break free from the curse that bound them, and in their struggle, they gnashed their teeth. Join me, Sarah urged, lunging for Emily's hand, determination surging within her. We can do this together. But as their hands touched, the lantern exploded in a burst of blinding light. The basement quaked violently. Sarah felt an icy grip tighten around her heart, dragging her down, her screams drowned out by the tempest of chaos erupting in all directions. The light pulsed, expanding, and in the split second before it consumed them both, a thought struck Sarah: was she helping or damning them? Would their choice seal their fate in darkness forever? The shadows screamed, the ground trembled, and as darkness and light collided, everything began to dissolve. What would emerge from the swirling chaos? Would clarity finally break through, or would the abyss claim them all? The light enveloped Sarah and Emily, a searing blaze that washed away the chains of shadows. For one terrible moment, Sarah felt as if the universe had folded into itself, that she was both nowhere and everywhere, suspended in horror. But then, just as suddenly, she plunged back into reality, gasping for breath on the floor of the basement. The lantern lay in fragments, shards of glass twinkling like fallen stars. The room was quiet, an eerie stillness settling over them. Sarah blinked, attempting to gather her senses while confusion clouded her mind. Where was Emily? Had the chaos claimed her too? Emily! The name tore itself from her throat, desperation creeping in. She crawled forward, heart pounding, shadows retreated but their whispers lingered. They were no longer solid, just wisps brushing past her skin, whispering secrets she didn't want to know. A low groan echoed in the vast expanse of the basement. Sarah turned, dread pooling in her stomach as she spied a figure slumped against the wall. Emily pulled herself upright, face pale as a ghost. Her eyes flickered, a mix of confusion and fear. What happened? She rasped. I think we broke something, Sarah said, shaking. But we might still have a chance. Emily shook her head, anxiety twisting her features. It felt like our choice opened a door. But to what? What have we done? Before Sarah could respond, the temperature plummeted, breath crystallizing in the air. Whispers grew louder, the shadows surged again, coalescing into forms, faces locked in torment. The silhouettes of anguished souls emerged, reaching out with hand-like tendrils, the scent of decay filling the air. Release us, they wailed in unison, voices intertwining into a cacophony that reverberated off the walls. We are never free. Frozen in terror, Sarah's mind spun. They were alive, the spirits now more tangible than ever, pulled from their torment by the light, yet still bound by the darkness. Emily staggered backward, trembling. This was a mistake. No, no! Sarah cried, moving to her side. We can't let them take us down again. We have to channel that light. It's our only chance. But as she spoke, the figures lunged forward, twisting into grotesque shapes, shrieking in agony. They clawed their way through the remnants of broken glass, desperation turning into madness. Sarah could feel them pulling at her, could feel them whispering insidiously in her ears, tearing at the seams of her sanity. Fight it! Sarah choked out, a trickle of panic in her voice. She grabbed Emily, desperate to steady her. It won't be easy, but we have to fight. Emily's eyes flickered in the dim light, the shadows pulling on her like chains. But what if we don't have the strength? She gasped, her voice cracking. What if this is how we end? Another scream echoed through the depths of the basement, reminding Sarah of their purpose. It lit a fire inside her. No! We have to confront this. Together. Look at them, they're lost, just like us. If we can connect to that light, we can help them cross over. With renewed resolve, Sarah squeezed Emily's hand, icy but steady. But the faces in the shadows only grew angrier, their cries twisting into a vengeful roar. They were not the lost souls seeking peace. They were something darker, something that fed on despair. Do you see what you've done? A voice boomed from the depths of the swirling chaos, drawing their attention. The shadows carved their way toward the source, a figure that melted from darkness. You've unleashed us. You think you can tame the storm? The figure loomed closer, eyes burning with unholy fire. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown to their doom. What do we do now? Emily whispered, panic rising like a tide, the shadows swirling in closer. Fight! Sarah yelled, a mix of anger and fear coursing through her. We can't give up now. But as the figure drew nearer, laughter echoed and the shadows began to close in, a storm of torment and despair. Would the darkness consume them, or could they turn the tide once and for all? We have to make our final stand. Sarah shouted, but would the light be strong enough against impending doom? Only time would reveal the answer, while shadows clawed for their souls. The shadows surged, their howls a symphony of pain, rising ever higher as if demanding to be heard. Sarah clutched Emily's hand tighter, her pulse racing like a frantic drum in her chest. The dark figure loomed, its eyes like molten coals, igniting a primal fear within her. Every instinct screamed to flee, but they were prisoners, shackled by dread and despair. Stay close! Sarah hissed, her voice barely rising above the cacophony. It felt like a breach into nightmare, the air thick with sulfur and despair. The spirits were hungry, baiting her from every corner of the room, whispering, tempting, pulling at the frayed edges of her sanity. We can't hold them back like this, Emily cried, her voice cracking. Panic had taken root, and every breath felt sharp. Shadows curled over her like smoke, encasing her in a chilling embrace. What do you think they want? Our souls? The thought gnawed at Sarah, a sickening blend of fear and determination. No! We can't let them claim us, she snapped, forcing her voice into conviction. They're abusing our fear. If we can just stay focused on what? Emily shouted, her eyes darting to the writhing darkness that melted into grotesque features. Each scream twisted knife-like into Sarah's heart, slicing away at her resolve. Maybe we can reverse whatever binds them, Sarah blurted out, words tumbling from her lips like stones in a river. She felt emboldened by the idea. If we control the light, we control the outcome. How do we channel it? Emily asked, breathless, sweat glistening on her brow. The pressure was immense, shadows clawing at them, dragging them into their twisted world. I don't know. Desperation clawed at Sarah's composure, yet a flicker of hope ignited within. But we have to believe we can. The figure, now inches away, laughed a sound so cold it froze the marrow in her bones. You think you can manipulate the light? You think it will save you? It took another step forward, its form rippling, shadows stretching and shuddering, hungry for flesh. Together! Sarah shouted, pulling Emily closer, forgetting the looming horror for a moment. We have to chant something. A mantra, something that binds us to the light. What if it doesn't work? Emily whispered, her expression flickering between fear and hope. Then we perish fighting, Sarah declared. We owe it to ourselves to try. Summoning their will, they shut their eyes against the chaos, desperate to remember the warmth of the sunlight that had originally drawn them down here. Light, light, guide us in this fight. They cried in unison, desperation weaving through their voices, a war cry against the darkness. The room trembled, the shadows shrieked and hissed, the figure's laugh morphed into an anguished scream. Colors began to swirl around them, flickers of light breaking through the encroaching blackness. Shivers ran down Sarah's spine as she felt the surge in energy. It's working, she gasped, shaking with exhilaration. But before they could embrace that glimmer of hope, a tidal wave of darkness crashed over them, the figure's form expanding, engulfing the flickering light. You're too late! It snarled, its voice slithering through the air like venomous smoke. Suddenly the basement shook, dust spiraling from the ceiling, cracks racing through the walls. With each heartbeat, the shadows grew more powerful, more desperate. Hold on, Emily! Sarah screamed as the storm of darkness slammed against them, threatening to pull them apart. Just then, a flash of blinding light erupted from their linked hands, a divine energy that pushed back against the abyss. But would it be enough? As the world began to collapse around them, shadows twisted violently, drawing the air from their lungs, leaving only the stench of decay. Sarah! We need more light! Emily shrieked, the fear latching onto her voice. Then let us give it everything we have! Sarah shouted back, her resolve transforming into a fierce resolve. But with the darkness bearing down, would it escape their grasp? And then the floor seemed to split, revealing a gaping maw leading into a deeper abyss. What awaited them below? Would they find salvation, or would that darkness swallow them whole, sealing their fates forever? The ground rumbled violently beneath them, a churning pit of shadows threatening to consume everything in its path. Sarah felt the tremors of despair clawing at her heart, an unyielding reminder of what was at stake. The darkness, alive and insatiable, loomed around them like a vengeful cloud, and for a moment she faltered. But the flames of determination blazed brighter within her. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for every soul trapped in this wretched cycle of despair. Concentrate! Sarah urged as the darkness coiled closer, tendrils of despair inching up their legs. We need to hold on to the light. We can't break now. Emily nodded, her eyes wide yet resolute, reflecting the flickering glow that began to pulse between them. Fight with everything we have, she whispered, clutching tighter to Sarah's hand. Together they chanted once more, raising their voices in unison, weaving an incantation of light sparked from deep within their souls. Light, guide us through this night. Break these chains, set us free to fight. With each repetition, warmth spread from their intertwined hands, stretching outward, filling the vast room with a radiance that defied the encroaching dark. The shadows recoiled at their proclamation, shrieks of agony erupting from all around. It was as if the very essence of despair was being torn asunder, fracturing under the intensity of their resolve. But the figure drew nearer, its grotesque features twisting in fury. You think mere words can save you? You cannot wield light against the darkness. It is part of you. You are trapped just like them. It shrieked, a chilling laugh echoing through the basement, stressing the pain of countless souls ensnared in darkness. No, Sarah cried, her voice rising above the din, filled with an authority that surprised even herself. We are not defined by our past. We can reclaim our fate. With a final surge of combined strength, they thrust their hands toward the menacing form, drawing the radiant energy locked within their hearts, forcing it forward like a weapon. For a heartbeat, the light flared as if the universe conspired to lend them its power, twisting the shadows back with a fierce brightness. In that pivotal moment, the figure faltered, its sneer twisting into a mask of fear. "Stop this!" "No!" it shrieked, lurching back, shadows dissipating in swirls like smoke. "Yes, together!" Sarah and Emily shouted, a final chant of unity, their voices piercing through the storm, and the light became an unyielding wave crashing against darkness, igniting the basement with a glow that burned away the encroaching despair. "Release them!" Emily cried, her voice strong. The lights exploded, incinerating the layers of shadow clinging to them, unraveling the ornate tapestry of heartbreak woven through generations. With a pulsating flash, the very fabric of darkness split apart, fragmenting into a storm of luminous light. As the shadows screamed and writhed, they pulled at the tethering souls, forming a bridge of hope for those long ensnared. Tommy's voice pierced through the chaos, clear and unwavering, grounding Sarah. "Mommy! We're here! We're waiting! I'm coming!" She felt a tug in her heart. That love was the final spark igniting their fight, illuminating the path to freedom. Fingers clasped tight, they directed the radiant energy toward Tommy's voice, as he and the other children appeared, their faces glowing, no longer mere silhouettes but innocent children echoing warmth and familiarity. "Take our hands! Come back!" Sarah urged, and as they reached forward, the swirling shadows began to withdraw, allowing the children to step into the light. The faces surrounding Sarah transformed, beaming with radiant joy, leaving behind traces of sorrow as the light consumed them, shining brighter than the darkness ever could. Just as the figure began disintegrating into wisps of shadow, it let out a final scream of agony, a cacophony growing dimmer until silence enveloped the basement. In a flash, the darkness shrank into oblivion, vanished into nothingness, leaving behind a shimmering afterglow. Everything fell still. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by the crisp, clean essence of victory. Sarah sank to her knees, breathless, glancing around at the transformed space, light illuminating the remnants of what had been, hope glistening in the air. And then there were her children, no longer entrapped. "Mommy!" Tommy called, rushing to her side. Sarah enveloped him in her arms, tears spilling down her cheeks, a deep sigh of relief escaping her lips. Emily knelt beside them, staring at Sarah with wide, glittering eyes filled with something she thought she had lost long ago: gratitude and love. "We did it," she breathed, bursting into happy tears. "Together we did." Sarah smiled through her tears, her heart swelling with love. They had broken the chains of darkness, freeing not just themselves, but the souls entwined with their family's past. As they embraced, warmth settled around them, a soft glow lasting long after the shadows had retreated. The children giggled, lines of joy painting their faces, and in that moment, everything felt possible. Gone was the dread that had overshadowed their lives in this cursed neighborhood. They had rewritten their tale, turning fear into powerful victory. In the heart of darkness, they had found hope, a light eternal, binding them together, always and forever. But as they left the basement, venturing into a world renewed, Sarah glanced back one last time, a whisper in her heart reminding her to cherish the light she'd fought for. Hope had prevailed, but an echo of the past would linger, a reminder of their strength in the face of terror. Sarah turned to her family, arms intertwined. They faced the horizon, no longer haunted but free to carve out their future. And standing together, they stepped confidently into the dawn. This is your moment. If you loved this chilling tale, you need to subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss out on more spine-tingling stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and let me know you want more. And flood the comments with your reactions. Tell me your theories about the twists and turns of Sarah's journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support and embrace the narrative that binds us all. Your engagement makes a difference, and every little action counts.